It was the most wonderful time of the year, but George and Jenny Sodder would have the worst day of their lives. Tragedy struck Fayetteville, West Virginia on Christmas Eve 1945, when the Sodder home was destroyed by fire, killing 5 of the 9 children. Or did it? The fire started at around 1 a.m. George and Jenny escaped with the 4 children, and when George tried to get back in to rescue the other 5, he was faced with numerous obstacles. His ladder, which he was going to use to get to the top windows of the house, was missing, and neither of his 2 cars would start. Firefighters did not arrive until 8 a.m. By then, the Sodders' home was a pile of charred rubble. They thought it was an electrical fire. Although the coroner's office issued 5 death certificates citing fire or suffocation, no bones or pieces of flesh were found. Unconvinced that Maurice, Martha, Louis, Jenny and Betty died in the fire, their parents erected a sign along Highway 16 asking for help. The cremation employee confirmed that bones remain even if the corpses are burned for 2 hours at 2,000 degrees. Their fire only lasted about 45 minutes. Things got more weird when the Sodders remembered the strangers who showed up at their house a few months earlier and the strange phone call on the night of the fire. In the fall, a man appeared who was looking for work. He pointed to the fuse boxes in the back and said, "This is going to cause a fire someday." Soon after, another man showed up and tried to sell the Sodders life insurance, which they refused. "Your cursed house is being smoked," he warned them, "and your children will perish. You will pay for the remarks you made about Mussolini," he said. George Sodder expressed opposition to the Italian dictator at local meetings, but did not take the man's statement as a serious threat. A few minutes before the fire started, an unknown woman called asking to speak to a person who did not reside in the house. Jenny heard laughter and clinking glasses in the background. "You have the wrong number," she said and hung up. So where were the Sodders' missing children? The first reported sighting came from a woman who said she served them breakfast at a tourist stop 50 miles west. Another claimed to have seen 4 of the 5 children in the Charleston Hotel. The Sodders contacted the FBI but were rejected by J. Edgar Hoover. Subsequently, they enlisted the services of a private investigator named C.C. Tinsley. He uncovered that the insurance salesman who had been involved in the incident the previous autumn was, in fact, a member of the coroner's jury that attributed the fire to a mishap involving faulty electrical wiring. The family then explored the grounds of their house and found some vertebrae, which they sent to the Smithsonian Institution for analysis. Pathologists determined that the bones belonged to the same person, but that they were not exposed to fire, meaning it was not one of their children. The reward for information regarding the Sodder family was increased to $10,000, leading to a fresh wave of calls and reports claiming sightings of the missing children, but none proved fruitful. It took 2 decades before Jenny finally received a hopeful lead. A letter from Kentucky arrived with no sender's information or return address, containing a photo and a cryptic message. The photograph depicted a man in his mid-20s who bore a striking resemblance to their 9-year-old son, Louis, as if he had grown up. When they dispatched a detective to Kentucky for further investigation, they never heard from him again. Despite adding the photograph to their billboard, the Sodder family was never able to locate their missing children. "Time is running out for us," said George Sodder in an interview. "But we only want to know if they did die in the fire. We want to be convinced. Otherwise, we want to know what happened to them." George died a year later in 1968, and Jenny died in 1989. Their last surviving daughter, Sylvia, is not convinced that her siblings perished in the fire, leaving the horror story unexplained to this day. So why not get comfortable, pour yourself a drink and choose one of our stories to listen to? Thanks for dropping by. I'll see you in the next chapter.